the Lethbridge Hurricanes are in Swift Current to take on the Broncos. Let's go out on the Western Pizza guest hotline. It's Friday, no need to cook. Get a Western Pizza wheel or any of the Greek favorites that you love from your local Western Pizza. The pickup specials are a solid. That's a pro tip for you. Grab the pickup specials. Ryan Swïtzer standing by. If you're watching the stream, now this guy and I worked together in radio back in like 1998, 99. If you've listened to the show before, we've had some good fun with that. I gotta tell you, Swïtzer, we've had you on like 3-4 times in the cage now since then. That's a good look. You aged well with that look. I got the hair looks good. You know, the nice specs, facial hair suits it. Yeah, you're doing a good job out there. And you're alderman, aren't you?
City councilor, yeah. I was fortunate enough to get reelected for another term, and they say if you don't have talent, you got to have work ethic, and I worked as hard as I could last term, and I'm glad that Swift Current's given me another chance, and I appreciate the compliments on my appearance. I don't know what you're doing though today, man, because if there's one thing I remember about you, you got a glorious head of hair, like glorious, with a little bit of natural curl and everything, and you wearing a hat over that head of hair is like a jack dude wearing a big bulky sweater. Like you got to show off what you got, brother.
It's just you didn't have time. You know what the thing? I had a massage. I had a massage between 11 and 12, and then the hair got all out of control, and didn't have any product, and I didn't want to come on here looking like a hobo. What did you run on? Like what were your what was the main platform? Like you said, hard work, but what are people in Swift Current concerned about these days?
We got to get a new aquatic center first and foremost, and we're hoping to get a federal grant to be able to do so. But with the current state of federal politics, who knows where that's going to lead. But Swift Current has some aging facilities that have served us really well, but it's time for some new ones, and a new aquatic center is big, and I was a big supporter of that and doing what we can to make that happen. And of course, you got to look after infrastructure. You know, the things that you don't see and touch, the water and the pipes and everything, those are kind of getting old as well. So just some flashy new facilities and just some meat and potatoes was kind of what I ran on this time around, and I'm glad that Swift Current gave me another go at this. It's been a challenge, and I've enjoyed it.
So hey, this could be 20 minutes on civic politics and Swift Current. This is
politics. Great. Let's go.
Where there isn't if I remember correctly, there isn't an indoor aquatic facility in Swift Current, is there? What do people use? The Days Inn?
No,
where is there one right now?
There's one, and it's about in the mid 40s for years old. It's attached to the high school, the aquatic center.
Oh, okay.
Clearly, you didn't maintain that physique by swimming laps when you were in Swift Current. It was the beer league hockey that did it for you. But yeah, we have an aquatic center. It needs a little bit of love, and we've put a lot of love back into it. But it's a facility that's old and tired and ready to move on.
This physique was established at Caddyshack and the Acropole. And the old Mr. Sub. I don't know if that's there. I hit that place.
No, we lost Mr. Sub. That is not there. There's an Extreme Pita there, but back in the day, you have the Shack Attack downtown Swift Current. You follow that up with some 2 a.m. Mr. Sub. I mean, those were the good old days, and I'm glad you brought that up. Your time spent in Swift Current, because we had some good times together, and I bet in North Battleford right now, Grant Shute is watching the two of us here on the SportsCage with a proud dad, an old mentor of both of ours. So
we had such a good crew, because we had Everett Hinley, who's now the education minister, just solid dude. We had Regan Bartel for a while before he shipped off to Kelowna. Regan Bartel and John Keane came in after, and we've had Keener on the show, and Keener's like Mr. Western Hockey League now. Who else am I missing? That was Kim Johnston in the morning was good. Then we had the office staff was just such a party in Swift Current. There was and for a city that didn't really give her, we gave her in that city quite a bit. People are gonna hey, get on with it. Let's go back to civic politics. No, Western Hockey League. If you're watching the stream, you are in is it the iPlex? Is that what it's?
Innovation Plex. Yeah, Innovation Credit Union has the naming rights. Innovation Plex. And then Greg and I were kind of trying to figure out where you were. I'm like, is he in the broadcast booth? And I'm like, no, the broadcast booth is on the other side. You're in one of those corner little suites that you guys made, or is it the audio booth that you're in? Yeah, this is actually where I work out of. This is the production room at Innovation Plex. So we have all the stuff that operates our in-venue scoreboard, which is over this shoulder here. It's over there, and then yeah, this is the view that our music guy and our PA announcer have for home games.
32 trades in the Western Hockey
Yeah.
League since Saturday, Colson's saying, like, unreal. And Switzer, when we go back to like the days, like, where the Swift Current Broncos were thinking about moving Lawrence Nicolette for maybe one other guy. Like, those days are so long gone. There is like massive parts going. The Broncos kind of made a three-way I saw late. Like, let's start with the Broncos and what they did. Probably strategic and smart for that franchise.
Well, yeah, the Broncos heading into trade deadline, a lot of the experts were really wondering what they were going to do because you always have to wonder. You head into this time of year, is this team going to be a buyer or a seller? And Swift Current, people weren't sure what direction they were going to go. They have a strong group of 19-year-olds. But do you take those and do you flip them and build up your draft pick cupboard, or do you build around them? And what Chad Leslie certainly did this year was build around and make some additions. And you referenced that three-way trade between the Red Deer Rebels, the Swift Current Broncos, and the Moose Jaw Warriors. You bring in a stud offensive defenseman like Hunter Mayo, really, really hard to play against, who's going to be one of the 20-year-olds on this team, and Trey Wilkie from the Red Deer Rebels as well, who's an '06 forward who's going to make the Broncos tough to play against and perhaps put up some points as well. Of course, to get good players, you got to give up good players, so they lose 17-year-old Ty Copeland, who is going to score a lot of goals in the Western Hockey League. He goes to Red Deer, and 20-year-old Eric Johnston, who's a Regina guy. He moves a little bit closer to home as he heads to Moose Jaw in that three-way trade.
You look at all the trades, though, it looks like the Central Division, that is going to be a bloodbath, like Barney and I were discussing. Like, it seems like they're building up for an absolute slugfest. Like, you look at what Lethbridge is doing, what Medicine Hat is doing. Like, who's going to come out of there when it's all said and done? It's wild.
Well, and there's so many X factors, but it's interesting you bring that up because yeah, and those teams didn't just start this past week. They've been having this trade war for a few months now, going back to the offseason. I think when the Calgary Hitmen pulled Connor Vidston out of Swift Current for a 2-3-4 return. But you look at those three teams go at it, and I think a lot of longtime hockey fans in Swift Current, Regina, and Moose Jaw are just going to look at the deals they made and think, oh, that's cute. Because, there was that three-way arms race in 2018 when Regina was hosting the Memorial Cup. Moose Jaw had reached the apex of a rebuild, and Swift decided to go all in to augment some good players there. So it's not unprecedented what these three teams in Alberta are doing and what they have done, but it's going to make for some great hockey down the road. And you asked me, who's going to come out of that. Flip a coin. I mean, there's injuries are likely going to happen and other things, but shoot, I like what Medicine Hat did. They go and they pull Tanner Molendyk out of Saskatoon. I don't think they paid an outrageous price to get him. Him and Misha Volotovsky, two vets who have deep playoff experience. And Med Hat's a tough out at the best of times, and that building can be really hard to play in the postseason. So I like what they did, but again, taking nothing away from Lethbridge and Calgary, who have stacked teams as well.
You get to see Lethbridge this evening and how the Broncos, I guess, kind of match up. We are still only in January. January hockey and April hockey is totally different. Like you said, injuries could come around the corner. The other thing, the thing I like maybe a little bit more, and full disclosure, I don't know the Calgary and the Medicine Hat team front to back like I would know a Regina team here or Moose Jaw last year. But Lethbridge has Unger in net, right? And he was so good last year for Moose Jaw when they needed him because they had a good team. But there was the game against Swift where I felt he kind of stole that one. Mm-hmm. And then as they went on and the Portland, like there was the one period in Moose Jaw where he stood on his melon against Portland. So just long way around it, Swites, like that goaltending piece. I don't know enough about Medicine Hats and Calgary's. What do you think on the goaltending front between those three?
Well, I got to asterisk what I said about Medicine Hat and them looking good with if everyone gets healthy. Medicine Hat made a move early in the season to pull Harrison Menigan out of Lethbridge. And he's week to week right now on the WHL injury report. So that's a big if for Medicine Hat, is if he comes back, and if he comes back 100%, he's one of the finest goaltenders in the Western Hockey League. So Med Hat's looking good there if Harrison Madigan comes back. Calgary Hitmen, they go and pull Daniel Hauser out of Wenatchee. Hauser was a big part of the former Winnipeg Ice playoff run a few years ago as just an 18-year-old goalie, and he's fun to watch as a goaltender. You know, nowadays goaltending, it's the big kids, it's the 6'3" guys with the big equipment. You know, Hauser's kind of a throwback. He's a smaller guy, he's under 6 foot, really athletic goaltender, but he's been dependable in deep playoff runs. So Calgary's looking good there. But you know, you touched on Jackson Unger, and we and Swift, we're not big fans of his. He tends to bring his A game to Innovation Plex here in Swift Current, whether he's with the Moose Jaw Warriors, and we're going to see him here tonight probably with the Lethbridge Hurricanes. They in Moose Jaw, they called him the Undertaker. I'm not sure if that nickname is going to follow him to Lethbridge. I liked it, but yeah, out of the three of them, you know, all three of those teams, they're good from the crease out, and you know, their blue lines are all really stacked as well.
Text line is going here. We got one from Blake in BC. I figure that's British Columbia. He wants to meet you.
Yes, I know he does.
He can't wrap his head around. I don't understand why the first place team in Saskatoon was a very defined seller, and it goes back to what we were talking about on this program a number of times, is because Colin Priestner, who's new to the game, he gets it. And if you asked a Jason Ripplinger, if you asked a Curtis Hunt, up in Steve Hildebrandt is with the Saskatoon Blades, who is a longtime trainer, now assistant general manager. You get it. If you don't have the 3 deep lines or 4 lines, and you know the league, you know you can't go. Like, maybe you can win one round, right? Switzer, how many times have you seen that around the league where it's like you can you can get into the playoffs, maybe win one round, maybe 2, but to win 3 and 4 is extremely tough, and you got to be built like these teams are now.
Well, and indeed, and to Balake's question there with the Saskatoon Blades, like with the lineup that they had sitting in first place, you know, they probably could have got into that 2 spot in the Eastern Conference, and maybe won a playoff series after that, and got themselves to the second round and the sold out crowds and all the playoff gravy that comes with that. But the thing with Saskatoon, had they not made those moves, had they not shipped off Tanner Molendyk and Ben Reich and all those other guys, they would be looking rough for a really, really long time. And I think Colin Priestner did a really, really good job of replenishing the draft picks that he spent to go deep into the playoffs last year. 2025, Saskatoon didn't have their first. And I think in the 2026 draft, Saskatoon didn't even have a pick for the first 6 rounds. And had they not sold off those assets, they would have been in deep trouble down the road. And it would have been some really, really lean years in Saskatoon. So Priestner, it's tough. I know some fans don't understand. Why would you do that? You're in first place and you sell. Quite frankly, it was a move that he needed to do for the long-term health and viability of his business.
I think Moose Jaw did a great job too. Jason Ripplinger. Mm-hmm. He's been around. Like, now the picks that they have over the next 2 years are great. How much do you know about the BC and the US division there? Like, when I had Keener on
it a little bit. Yeah.
Like, it's
Keener would know more than I would. He sees it, and go ahead with your question, man. Sorry.
Yeah, no, like when I had him on, that's where I was kind of like, the BC division is so good. Like, man, it's deep, and it's going to be an arms race there. And then Spokane, you know, kind of and double down with offense, adding Cristal. From what I see, everyone talks about Everett and how good they are. I guess I was a little surprised, like a team like PG didn't go more in. But from the teams that you've seen in BC and what you've heard, like, what do you expect out of BC in the US? Everett,
yeah. And Spokane made a move to close the gap with a guy who can turn a game on its head with Andrew Crystal that you mentioned there. They made that big buy to get Crystal out of Spokane and maybe put themselves in a bit more of a competitive series with Everett. But again, all things being equal, Everett's a juggernaut. We saw them in Swift a few months ago when they did their tour through Saskatchewan. They thundered through Saskatchewan. Swift Current was their last stop, and they looked fresh as a daisy. They're a fundamentally sound organization. They got a great general manager in Mike Fraser, a guy who actually used to be a scout in Swift Current once upon a time. And they're the team to beat out west. Prince George made a pretty big buy in getting Ben Wright out of Saskatoon. And Prince George is a well-coached organization. Mark Lamb is out there, the coach and general manager. They'll be a team that goes deep into the playoffs, but that Western Conference, it's Everett's to lose. They're stacked and they're good.
All right, buddy. What's the vibe crowd-wise this year in Swift? Because that's always a thing. Smaller town and cold nights, people don't drive in. But then, when things start getting buzzing, everyone wants to be involved. Like, what's that like been like in Swift?
We're good right now. We're healthy. We, as I referenced earlier, there was that 2018 run where, Swift Current ended up winning an Edge South Cup, but the price that they paid was heavy. We had 5 pretty lean years that followed that. But last season, the team made a big trading deadline buy by bringing in Connor Geekie, who's now playing in the NHL, and he's a regular in Tampa Bay. And bringing Geekie in just kind of gave this organization and the hockey community some swagger back, and it was fun to go to the rink. The games were exciting, and that's carried on a bit into this year. I think Swift is really looking for some consistency in the second half. They addressed that at the trade deadline by bringing in some guys that can provide that, and it's fun. You can see behind me, this isn't the biggest barn in the league by any stretch, but it can certainly be the loudest when 2,500 get rolling in here and get rocking. It's a fun place to be, and we've had that this year. It's been fun. Win or lose, hit the booze. Let's go.
Hit the shack. And then, the swagger in that town in Geekie came with the tinted visor, right? As soon as you have tinted visor guy on your team, you got instant swagger.
Oh yeah, and he was a great showman too. Like he gets that people are coming to the rink to be entertained. He had his quirky routines, pregame and postgame stuff, and yeah, he helped really make it fun again. And he's a special human being, and the Tampa Bay Lightning are really lucky to have him.
Switzer, it's always a pleasure. I know I said I'm going to get there for a game this year. I don't know when. You know what? Actually, my daughter's playing there's like a Saturday, Sunday game, so I got to spend the night. Why don't we go have a pint somewhere in Swift and chat about the old days?
A few pints at a few different places, brother. Let's go. Yes.
Right on. Mr. Swift Current,
right.
City Councilor. He's building a pool himself. I think that's how he started. Ryan Swïtzer, thanks so much, buddy.
Thanks, fellas. Yeah.
Good stuff on the Western Pizza guest hotline.